Let's break down what defenses you must start moving into week 5 of the 2024 fantasy football season if you want to absolutely dominate your league mate, as well as what defenses we can pick up off the waiver wire and stream this week, who will also help you absolutely dominate your league mate here in week 5 of 2024 fantasy football. Before we do so, let me remind you guys that Underdog is the place you want to be if you want to get in on additional fantasy football action all season long. Their week 4 pick'ems for Monday Night Football are live, and Underdog is giving any new customers who sign up with promo code TheCatch a free pick'em to use towards Monday Night Football's action. And don't worry, if you guys watch this video later in the week, Underdog is still going to give you a free pick'em to use towards week 5's NFL action. And on top of that, all new users who sign up with promo code TheCatch are going to receive a 50% deposit match up to $1,000. That's up to $1,000 in bonus cash on Underdog, plus a free pick'em to use this week when you sign up with promo code TheCatch. That link is down below. Let's kick the video off with the San Francisco 49ers. This is my must-start defense of the week. Is this a defense you can pick up and, play from the waiver wire? No. They're 99% rostered, but they've been a defense that's been really hard to trust. I didn't even really fully trust them going into week 4. I got some questions about them. I'm like, well, the Patriots haven't actually really been turning over the football. They're just not scoring a lot of points, and the Niners defense has not been good. They've been kind of bottom 12 against like running backs and wide receivers on the year, and just haven't really had a massive amount of upside because they're allowing a lot of total yards and points in games. Week 1, they had just 6 fantasy points. Week 2, 10 fantasy points. Week 3, 3 fantasy points. Then in week 4, they came up and reminded us of why they are one of the most feared defenses in the NFL, albeit it was against the Patriots. But 26 total fantasy points, 2 forced fumbles, an interception, a defensive touchdown, and 6 sacks. Dominant performance against the Patriots. Outside of that, they have just 3 forced fumbles and 2 interceptions on the season, and they had allowed at least 19 or more total points in every game. So definitely their best fantasy performance and overall defensive performance of the season so far. This week they get the Cardinals at home, and I think they are just a team at this point we're going to keep in our starting lineups. Maybe don't have as much upside this week, but I think they could definitely come in, have a very sharp fantasy day. The Cardinals really struggled against the Commanders in week 4. They didn't necessarily have a ton of turnovers. Michael Wilson had that fumble, but, we didn't really Kyler Murray didn't throw any interceptions, anything like that, anything crazy. But I do think with the Cardinals kind of struggling in week 4, the Niners having a great performance, that they absolutely remain a must-start defense as we move into week 5. All right, next up, let's talk about the Minnesota Vikings. Still sitting at 55% rostered at the time I'm recording this. They were on last week's video, even going up against the Packers, knowing that Jordan Love may play. They still walked away with 9 fantasy points. A little disappointing, but I think with Jordan Love playing, this was actually, considering they, gave up 29 points and 465 total yards of offense, 9 fantasy points did not feel that bad. They had a forced fumble recovery, 3 interceptions, just 1 sack. But overall, I said it throughout the week, the Vikings are just a safe floor play. They are, if not the best, one of the best defenses in the NFL right now, and just a safe week in, week out play when it comes to fantasy football. This week they get the Jets, and the Jets just don't look super inspiring coming off of a loss against the Broncos. Listen, this is once again not necessarily an offense that's turning the football over a ton. We've only seen 1 interception from Aaron Rodgers on the year. But right now, I think Rodgers probably going to play in week 5, but he's technically questionable. And he's coming off a game where he didn't throw a touchdown, just 11.6 fantasy points, 225 passing yards for Rodgers in week 4. So, albeit that was a wet, rainy, gross game, Broncos, Jets, but I think that the Vikings should stay in our starting lineups in week 5. I think they continue to be a must-start defense. Maybe they don't have a ton of turnover upside this week. Maybe they don't, but they are still a defense that is going to be very stout on a week in, week out basis. The Jets did not look great in week 5, did not score a ton of points, walked away with just 9 total points in that game, was gross. So really like the Vikings. They are a little bit lower rostered, nothing too crazy, still sitting at 55% rostered. If they are available, absolutely love them. They should continue to be a must-start defense as we approach the week. Let's move along to the Denver Broncos, who will face the Raiders at home. Wasn't as high on the Broncos going into week 4 as some people, but as the week went on, I got more questions about them. I started to say, I do like the Broncos this week against the Jets. They have actually been pretty dang good throughout the season. 9 points, 6 points, 16 points, and 12 points through the first 4 weeks. And now they get the Raiders, who are just one of these teams that, they can still put up some points, put up some yards, but we want to try and stream against him. And that is even, coming off a game where Gardner Minshew did not turn the football over. His first game with no turnovers was week 4, no interceptions, no fumbles, but just 130 passing yards. I mean, I know Devontae Adams didn't play this past week. Maybe he plays in week 5. Am I worried about it with Pat Surtain out there? No. I mean, this is a Broncos defense that has some weaknesses, but tends to just show up on a week in, week out basis. No interceptions in week 4, but a forced fumble, 5 sacks, and they only allow 9 points against the Jets. So I like them a lot against the Raiders at home. I have a feeling Adams is going to play in week 5, but once again, that doesn't necessarily worry me. So the Broncos, a very safe floor play. They're sitting at just 4% rostered. This is a team you can pick up off the waiver wire and plug in right away and play them. Really like the Broncos this week. They are an excellent stream as we approach week 5. And along, let's take a look at the New Orleans Saints traveling to face the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, this is a risky one. They said a 25% rostered going into week 4. This was a top 5 defense in fantasy football, but they walked away with just 4 fantasy points in week 4 against the Falcons. So there is risk here, but I think that they're a pretty safe floor and a decent streaming option this week, even on the road in Arrowhead against the Chiefs. Not my favorite play. I'm saying there's risk here, but the Chiefs just lost Rashee Rice for what is probably going to be the entire season, indicated by the reports that I've read. Once again, I record these on Sunday night, but I think it's safe to say Rashee Rice is out for the season. No Hollywood Brown. Kelsey did play better, much better in week 4. Xavier Worthy still made some big plays. The run game looked a little bit more inspired with Kareem Hunt there. So there is risk here, but there's no hiding that the Chiefs are not this super high powered offense scoring a ton of points, super high ceiling offense that they could have been maybe if Hollywood and Rashee Rice were healthy, as well as Isaiah Pacheco right now. Patrick Mahomes has at least 1 interception in every game so far this year. He has not topped more than 17.3 fantasy points in a game this year. The Chiefs really need this early bye that they're getting in week 6. This is going to present some nice opportunities for this Saints defense that before week 4 had been really stout, and they have had at least 1 interception in every single game this year. So they've also had a forced fumble in every single game this year. So I like the Saints. They have a nice opportunity here with kind of a depleted Chiefs team. There's still risk. It's still Mahomes, Andy Reid, the Chiefs at home. I know. But I think the Saints could be a nice floor play this week, a nice stream. If you have nothing better defensively, they're worth a shot in week 5. It'll bring us to the Indianapolis Colts, who will travel to face the Jaguars. And this Colts defense has looked pretty good the last 2 weeks. They sit at just 6% rostered. They had 10 fantasy points in week 4, gave up 24 points, but had 4 sacks and 2 forced fumbles, both of which they recovered. So the fact that they gave up 404 total yards of offense and 24 points, but still walked away with double-digit fantasy points, makes me feel pretty good. In week 3, they gave up 395 total yards and 16 points and still walked away with 11 fantasy points, having 2 interceptions and a forced fumble that was recovered in week 3. So this is a nice opportunity on the road against a divisional opponent in the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I will say the Jaguars played much more inspired football in week 4, kept that game against the Houston Texans close. Trevor Lawrence played a little bit better overall. Still not great, but he threw 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. and 169 passing yards, which was at least far better than what we saw in week 3 against Buffalo and what we saw to start the year. There was at least some life in this Jaguars offense. So I'll say that, but still, the Colts here on the road have a nice opportunity against a Jaguars team that for a majority of September was struggling. Maybe not a team that's super turnover prone, but it was at least low scoring and struggling offensively. So the Colts at just 6% rostered have looked good the last 2 weeks defensively. I think they're a team that we can pick up and stream that presents good value moving into week 5. Last but not least, I want to talk about the Seattle Seahawks, who will face the New York Giants at home. I do have to record these on Sunday night, so I don't know how the Hawks looked in week 4 at the time I'm recording this, but I wanted to mention them because they've been a pretty safe play all season long. I don't really expect them to have a great game on the road against the Lions and that offense, but I think they could be a team that has a nice bounce back opportunity in week 5 against the Giants and comes in with a safe floor. Going into week 4, they were the defense 7 in fantasy football, 10 points in week 1, 6 in week 2, 15 in week 3, a forced fumble in every single game, 2 interceptions on the season. They've been pretty stout throughout the year. Don't love them in week 4. I get it. We'll see what happens Monday night. This video will come out before Monday Night Football, but a lot of you guys watch it throughout the week. So see what happens. But in week 5 against the Giants, Daniel Jones, I think they have a good opportunity, especially if Malik Neighbors does not play due to that concussion, but he's got a good shot at playing. The Seattle Seahawks secondary has been very good on the year, been very stout. So if Neighbors misses this game, it's a really good opportunity to pick up the Seahawks, who are 35% rostered, and stream them. Daniel Jones kind of came back to earth in week 4 after having 2 good performances against Washington and Cleveland in weeks 2 and 3, an interception, 281 passing yards, nothing on the ground, ran the ball 3 times for 0.75 total yards. Interception, like I said, 10.5 fantasy points. So this is a nice opportunity at home for the Seattle Seahawks. Even if they don't play great in week 4, that might help you because they might drop in roster percentage. And then you can pick them up and scoop them, stream them at home against the Giants. Should be a great opportunity for the Seahawks in week 5. That'll do it for today's video. There are 6 must-start defenses, whether you already have them rostered and you can't pick them up, or you can go out on the waiver wire and fight for them this week. Don't forget, guys, I'm answering all fantasy football questions in the comments section down below. If anything major happens based on the Sunday night football game or either Monday Night Football game this week, I will pin it in the comment section down below and let you guys know my thoughts on maybe some other streams or must-start defenses as the week goes on. And don't forget, as the week does go on, we're going to have everything that you guys need here on the channel for week 5 of 2024 fantasy football. Start sits at every single position: running back, wide receiver, quarterback, and tight end. Must-start kickers, waiver wire videos, all kinds of content, as well as plenty of live streams, fantasy Q&A throughout the week. So make sure you guys are subscribed so that you don't miss out on any of the content here on the channel. And with that, I'll say thank you guys so much for watching and or listening. And remember, you saw it here on The Catch.